Good morning, welcome to Thought for the Day on this Tuesday. We had a discussion last night at the Church Council. It was a discussion I have to admit I was slightly dreading. It was about the summer fair, which we've been planning for the Saturday the 10th of July. It's something that's happened at St Albans every year. Not something I've ever seen because 2 years ago I wasn't here and last year it didn't happen because of COVID. And we've been planning it for the 10th of July on the basis that the restrictions would be eased and basically lifted on the 21st of June. But when that decision didn't happen, as well, I guess we feared for a week or two. At first we were thinking we'll still go ahead with it, but as we thought about it at the Church Council last night, we realised it was just going to be too difficult to make sure that we kept to all the rules. We need too many people involved in stewarding. We wouldn't have a good fallback plan if the weather wasn't good, or if too many people turned up. So in the end, it was a relatively easy decision. But I've been worried it would be something we would agonise over for a while, and I was particularly glad that we didn't have the conversation that's out there in the public space a lot, saying it's not fair. It wasn't fair. We can't have our fair. But the conversation that's going on in the public space is so much, it's not fair. I'm so glad we didn't say, well, look, there are loads of people going into the supermarkets every day of the week, 14 hours a day, just drifting in, drifting out, buying things. That's just the same as the fair. There are people serving refreshments, and the rules allow us to do for cafes to do refreshments in this way. It's not fair. Why can't we have our fare? I'm so glad we didn't have those conversations. It's interesting, isn't it? What sorts of things, comparisons that are being made. So Andrew Lloyd Webber, very, very upset a couple of weeks ago that he said, well, why are you prepared to allow football matches with thousands of people there, but not allow my musical to go ahead with thousands of people? And maybe the deeper issue isn't so much that one big event versus another. There's no easy way to choose that. If we can't have everything, we've got to pick and choose somehow. Who's to say that musicals are more important than football matches, or whatever is your particular favoured way of gathering? It's always a difficult call. Maybe there's a bigger concern in the large against small thing. Why can Wimbledon go ahead with capacity crowds, but St Albans Summer Fair not? Maybe there's something to do with we're a little bit governed by newspaper headlines and what people can see on TV. Empty stands at big sports events, people see on their TVs night after night. No one sees the empty churches and community halls around the country with those little fairs. There's things that give hope to a community not happening for a second summer. And no one sees all the council-owned community centres which are being even more cautious about opening up. And again, people not being able to get together for their exercise groups, their support groups, all the different things that happen at those places. That's all a bit hidden. It doesn't make the headlines that an empty football stadium or an empty Wimbledon would make. But maybe deeper still, the issue is that our desire for justice, for things to be fair, but fair on my terms, fair in terms of what I can see in my time scale, is actually a flawed desire. Yes, God is a just God, but it's never going to look fair for everyone. And in fact, of course, as we follow in the footsteps of Jesus, it's not even going to look fair in this world at all. Let me read a few verses for you. He, that's Jesus, committed no sin, no deceit was found in his mouth. When they hurled their insults at him, he didn't retaliate. When he suffered, He made no threats. Instead, he entrusted himself to him who judges justly. He said, it feels completely unfair. They're accusing me of things I didn't do. They're not even following their own rules. They're putting me to death when a robber goes free. It's not fair at all. But he puts himself in the hands of him who judges justly, the God who sees the beginning and the end, the God who would give him 3 days later that glorious victory, that glorious resurrection. So when you feel it's not fair, whether it's about our affair or whatever feels fair to you, maybe it's time just to pause and put yourself in the hands of him who judges justly, who will make everything come out in the end. While we wait for that freedom we long for, let's find that peace and that unity that we found last night at the Church Council. God bless you, and I'll speak to you again soon.